Hello there. Welcome back to the Senate Podcast. We're on episode number 31, and I'm your host, Caleb Johnston. I'm joined by... Who are you today, sir? You are...
I am,
You're
Zero.
From Mega Man.
No, from,
No, from Mega Man.
Okay, from Mega Man.
Yeah. I'll be Rush. I'm the dog. You'll be Zero. Are you a Mega Man fan? Do you know anything about Mega Man?
No, like, I've always known who he was and stuff. I think I've seen a little bit of this animated show when I was a kid.
Okay.
It's a franchise that I kind of want to get into maybe at some point, but, like, it just has so many games.
Mega Man X is where I would say to jump into. I grew up playing X1, X2, and recently I played X3 and 4. But Mega Man, it's fun if you like 2D games. It's fun, but you'll be Zero today.
Okay.
the coolest character. You're not the main character, but you're the coolest character. You're who everybody wants to be the main character.
He's like the Knuckles of the Mega Man universe.
That's so accurate. It's so accurate.
Oh, he does look pretty cool.
He's awesome. I remember I think it was Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I always used to be Zero. But anyways, episode 31. I'm super excited because we've done 31 episodes plus a few special episodes, and I like it. We're coming up on a year here soon, and I'll spoil it right now. I have somebody working on an intro theme for the podcast.
Oh, nice.
I don't want to give anything else away for it, but I'm going to collaborate with him for it. He's going to do some music for it, and I'm hopefully going to add a little bit to it, and we're going to make it really cool. Whenever it's done, and I put it in the first episode that whatever it's in, I'll explain it to you. You're going to hate it, but you're going to love it. It's going to sound so good, you're going to love it, but you're going to hate where it comes from. That's all I'll say. So, episode 31. Our last two episodes are actually interviews. I interviewed Jake James Lugo from. Well, he does so many different things, and he's from so many different he's
outlets. Like kind of famous, right? Or not?
I mean,
famous.
yeah, from the games media side as a writer and content creator and podcaster and everything. Like, it's funny when I introduced him, I'm like, man, what all do you do? And he just went on and on because he does so much stuff. But anyways, I interviewed him, Jake James. That's his first name. Together, it's not two words.
I was wondering, I've only met like one person, I think, who their name was like that, and it's a little strange. But I mean, it's cool. It makes you stand out.
It's cool. It makes you stand out, definitely. And he is a professional. It's such a great interview. He is a games media writer, a content creator, a podcaster, everything. That was a fun interview, and I really want to have him back on to talk about Star Wars video games specifically.
I would love to talk about Star Wars stuff with him because I feel like him and I kind of are really opinionated, and that could be really fun.
I'm going to get that episode in the future going. I have to. Might be a few months from now, but yeah. And then last episode, you did an interview. Tell us a little bit about how that went. I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
Thank you. I talked to Stefan Gagné from Fiction Factory Games. He's the lead writer, and it's funny. When we were talking in the pre-roll before we started recording, he's like, "Yeah, Fiction Factory Games is essentially just me." So it's cool. He's kind of like a renegade. He's in the trenches. He's one of those guys that likes to do as much as possible for his games. That's not his full-time profession, which shocked me because for some reason I ignorantly had this idea that everybody who works in the industry, that's their job, whether they're an indie dev or, AAA dev, whatever, somewhere in between. But there are probably some who they're not super high caliber, so they still have regular jobs. And props to him because he's disabled as well, and has certain challenges. So he's just you could tell like he wouldn't be doing that. Other people wouldn't be doing that if they didn't love what they were doing and love the stories they're telling and stuff. So I mean, it was awesome to talk to him. He's really knowledgeable guy. We have a lot in common. It was just great to get some insights and to tell him how much I appreciate his work and stuff. And I still can't believe it. Like it's not like I'm somebody like if I meet somebody who's well known but not like really famous, in my eyes, I still feel like I met like somebody who's famous and up there, just because that doesn't happen to me that much. So it was just a huge privilege, and I hope the first of a few, if not many, interviews that I get with creators I like in the future.
They're so valuable. I love listening to it because he has so much insight and knowledge about the game development side. And then with the interview I did, he had so much knowledge on the industry and media and the kind of like after the development, that part. And then yours, they had a lot of information about the development. So great 2 episodes right there. And in the future, we will continue our Star Wars retrospective series and kind of bring it to an end here shortly with the sequel trilogy. We're going to start that soon, and I want to do Rogue One and Solo as well.
Yeah.
I don't think we should do every series. We don't really have to do any of the series, but Ahsoka, we're going to talk about Ahsoka. Okay. We're going to have probably a few people on that episode. I'm hoping to have 4 people on that episode.
It's like one of the few recent Star Wars things that I actually think looks cool and like I want to see it. So I mean,
good. We'll reserve our thoughts, but so good.
Yeah.
I can't wait. There's those 2 episodes, and then big games coming out. Spider-Man 2. Woo!
I won't be playing it till after February because Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I can't wait to lose my entire life. I'm gonna take a week off work,
and that's fine. I'm gonna have some stuff done with that because I'm getting very excited for it now because they're showing more and more as time gets closer, and now I'm hooked. I had to kind of reserve the mind share for it because Mortal Kombat just came out and I beat it today. I play as Raiden. I don't know how much you know about Mortal Kombat, but it's so good.
I know a very little amount, I guess. But it seems fun. I know like there are a few spin-off games that aren't like fighting games necessarily that I think look cool. I've never been like into fighting games. I'm just bad at them. But I mean, if I would get into a franchise, that would be one of them. Just because like the actual lore and stuff seems pretty interesting.
Now, what if it was, spoiler alert for later in the episode, what if it was a choice-based fighter? Dun dun dun.
Choice-based.
All right, keep that in the back of your head. We'll get into that later. But Mortal Kombat 1, great game. I'm having a lot of fun. I play as Raiden. I'll destroy anybody. I'm a beast with Raiden. So that game's super fun, but now I'm done with it.
Especially the Switch version. The Switch version.
I play on Switch. That's why I'm so good. I play on Switch.
I just want to know, like, what executive at NetherRealm Studios spoke to somebody at Nintendo.
How does that pass?
Like, I mean,
it looks like Funko Pop versions of the actual characters.
God, it's like they had to downgrade it so much to get it to run on Switch. It's not worth it. Like it's a PS5 game. It's an Xbox. Like Nintendo doesn't have to do everything. It's okay.
So I'm actually very upset with Nintendo because, okay, we've been going almost 10 minutes, so let's just jump into gaming news. And I guess I'll start with Sonic Frontiers because I have an issue with Switch. I'm playing Sonic Frontiers on it, and man, is it terrible. The pop-in is terrible, the graphics are terrible, the controls are terrible. I could keep going. Everything about it is terrible. The only thing Switch is good for are its exclusives. So Sonic Frontiers, I'm playing, DLC just came out. I love Sonic, but we won't talk about Sonic too long. But I've had a recent revelation, and it is that Sonic 3 is the best Sonic game. Can you accept that?
It's really the only one I've ever played.
Okay.
I never got very far as a kid because I sucked at it.
It's hard. It is a hard Sonic game. I think it's probably one of the hardest Sonic games, if you ask me. So, but it's a 2D game. And for a long time, and this game might come up later at the end of the show, Sonic Adventure 2 and Sonic Adventure were my favorite Sonic games. And they still are. But I think gameplay-wise, mechanically, even how impressive the story is in a 2D game, Sonic 3, and then Sonic 3 and Knuckles, if you want to count the expansion, essentially, I think it's the best Sonic game. I think Sonic 3 is the best Sonic game. Now, the DLC it's really cool what they're doing with Sonic Frontiers. I think Sonic Frontiers is the best open world Sonic game, and it might even be the best game that Sonic's in, but it doesn't feel like a Sonic game, but it's pretty fun. Definitely worth checking out.
I just don't understand.
Sonic 06.
I just don't. Oh yeah, of course. Sonic Final Fantasy. I don't understand why Sonic Frontiers had to be open world. Because all the gameplay I've seen from the game, the only stuff that looks good are those areas where it's just a regular Sonic game, But the main game around it looks unfinished. It looks like the devs just ran out of time and were I don't know, let's just put this over here. I don't know, screw this. It's I just want to know whose idea that was. There's a way to do that better. He could be running through fields with animals and stuff, rivers, actual, architecture and stuff, instead of just platforms that are suspended in midair that lead
it's
to nothing.
Almost like when you try to expand your game and make it a bigger open world, you almost have to make sacrifices in other areas of the game.
I don't think that's ever happened. Final Fantasy 15. Sorry.
No, a game that I want to talk about, and this is such a good segue into this. I don't know if you've heard of this game, but it's a massive open world game. You could even say it's open galaxy with how big it is. And they had to take a lot of they had to make a lot of sacrifices in other areas of the game, specifically the graphics and some of the mechanics. And that game is Starfield. I don't know if you've heard of this game, but
dude, I don't have an Xbox or PC. I haven't played this game, but dude, within a week, I became tired of the game.
Yeah,
tired of the fans, dude. You can't. I love when a game comes out from a popular franchise or on a popular console, and all the fanboys go to any videos of somebody daring, making the grave mistake to say anything even remotely negative about the freaking game. And then they're like, oh, you're just a hater. You just wanted it to be this, and you can't accept that it's not this. That's why you don't like, bro, gaming discourse is dead. Movie discourse is dead. Everything discourse is dead. I'm tired of it. I'm just tired of it.
Remind me to come back to Starfield, but I got to go on a rant right here because what you just said, I've been thinking about it today. And I'm thinking about console fanboys, and this is how you can spot a console fanboy, and not like a toxic one. Here's how you can tell: when somebody who doesn't even play a certain genre or like a certain genre will defend with they will defend this game harder than any other game, as long as it comes from that console, as long as it's a console exclusive, even if it's a genre they don't play or even like. And I was thinking about it, and I'm going through kind of exclusives, an exclusive library, and I was thinking about Xbox's exclusive library because they have very diverse games. They have this, that, and they have 2D games like Ori and the Will of the Wisp, or in the Blind Forest, or whatever. All those, and even though now they're on other platforms, they were exclusive at the time, and they were 2D games. And I remember so many Xbox people who I've never saw, friends of mine, content creators, everything, who don't even play games like that, where they were just defending this game, oh, it's amazing, it's amazing, it's amazing. And I'm you don't even play those type of games, but you were just defending it because it's Xbox game. Okay, maybe it is great and it got good reviews and stuff, but you know what I mean? It's like, and the same thing on PlayStation side. Like, if you're not even a fan of like God of War type games, and you're like, oh, this is the greatest game ever, and you can't even spell Kratos, you know what I mean? But because it's from PlayStation, you're just defending it.
Yeah.
So
I can't imagine like being like I just play whatever stuff I think is interesting. Sometimes that's something that's on, you know, PlayStation, Switch, whatever. Sometimes it's a Switch exclusive. Sometimes what's been happening lately is it's like a indie game that launched on PC and then they ported over to the Switch. You know, so like I guess technically if I'm a fanboy of anything, it's indie games on PC by virtue. But I mean,
by virtue, maybe, yeah.
I can't imagine, like, I don't know. I just can't, like, people act like, I saw, like,
loyal to a box.
Like, on TikTok, like, somebody made, like, a joke video of, like, the Marvel's Avengers Spider-Man DLC, and, like,
oh my goodness.
It's like, like, it's a sound, I don't know if you've heard it, the crappy version of, I think it's something from, I think, Spider-Verse. It's like,
oh yeah,
that, like, you know, and like the caption was Xbox only players when Spider-Man 2 comes out.
Yeah,
it was a joke.
So funny.
And then I went through the comments because I'm like, I know
and people were
gonna
hurt.
be like, you know, people are like, oh, I'm still gonna be playing Starfield or whatever. I'm good, like, and like, yeah, like, PlayStation fanboys
about the Starfield killer.
PlayStation fanboys are no different either, because like if somebody dares to attack, you know, God of War, Last of Us, anything, they get mad too. Like, it, just learn how to laugh at stuff. Like, life's too short to be pissed off about people bad mouthing stuff that isn't even rooted in the real world. Like, it doesn't like. These characters are fictional. I don't know if you realize that. Somebody talking about them isn't going to ruin your day. It's okay.
You're throwing me up some. You're throwing me up some nice ones, and you're waiting for me to slam them. And I can transition right now, but you're right. Like, it gets so toxic. And me and Jake James actually talk about this a lot with just people being loyal to boxes and stuff. But I'm probably like the biggest PlayStation fan. You know, I would say.
Yeah.
I love PlayStation. I grew up a Nintendo fan, but I love PlayStation. That being said, and everything we just said, I actually enjoy Starfield. It's not the best game. I give it, I was just talking with my friend about it. I give it probably a 7. I think IGN's review is pretty accurate. I would give it like a 7.5 probably. Not that I really care that much, but you know, that's kind of where I stand with it. I'm having fun with it. It's fun. You know, 7.5. And what gets me with the game is I actually don't want open world. Like, I don't like open world games all that much.
Yeah.
And if I play open world games, it has to have some type of like fast travel or something. Like, you know, I can't just be doing nothing, running around. And there's a lot
like
of that in Starfield, but
the traversal has to be fun in some way.
Yeah, it has to be engaging. Like, that's why I like Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, swing, like, you know, because like swinging is so fun that I was never like a fan of open world games, but I played that, like, I never fast traveled in that game because I just like swinging. If I had to walk everywhere, I might not have even played the whole thing.
And it's terrible in Starfield because it's a Bethesda game and they have encumberment. So like you can't be carrying too much. If your oxygen goes down and your CO2 goes up, you'll start getting dizzy and slow down. Like, you got to manage your running. It's cool, like, as a simulator and when you get into combat and stuff, but like, point being, I fast travel everywhere, and that's what I like about it, and that's people's complaints. But for me, that works out, and I'm actually enjoying it because I'm following these really interesting quest lines, and that's the only reason I keep going back to the game, is because the story is interesting, the main story, and the quests, and just the random activities and random stuff you run into that leads to other things. I think it's actually done super well in this game, but it's a terrible open world game. Absolutely terrible open world game. So I'm having fun with it. And it's funny because There is a Starfield killer on the way. You know what that is?
What?
It is a leak that came out today of a sci-fi game being created by none other than Naughty Dog. So let me get into this little leak right here. I don't know if it's been debunked, but so there have been rumors for a while that Naughty Dog's next game is a sci-fi based game, and one of the reasons there's like rumors and speculation about that is Naughty Dog, they kind of like to hint their games in their previous games, if that makes sense. So like if you look in at the very beginning in the bar scene in Uncharted 3, you can look at the newspaper and see cordyceps in it. Nobody knew what that was at the time.
I think I've seen someone talk about that, maybe.
And that was because someone accidentally left it in and they didn't want to patch it out because someone would have caught it. But you can look and see anyways, that's kind of been a tradition now for them. So you can see these sci-fi posters in The Last of Us Part 2 that don't really make sense. And Naughty Dog is working on an unannounced IP, and then also they're working on The Last of Us Part 3, as confirmed by Dina's actress last week, I believe. So this sci-fi game, I don't, even if it's debunked or whatnot, people are thinking it's fantasy. Some people are thinking it's sci-fi. It could be a little bit of both, almost like a Star Wars type of game, like a science fantasy type of game. There's not much about it. Somebody on Twitter is this in a Discord? No, this was on Twitter. The Tipster at the Tipster VG. I'll delete this immediately, but keep a screenshot if you must. The new IP is called Eyes of Polaris or Polaris. It is a sci-fi or fantasy new IP currently in development by Naughty Dog. That's all we know. We're just going to speculate. What do you want to see from Naughty Dog's next game if it is a sci-fi or fantasy? What are your hopes? What are your dreams? I'm just joking about the Starfield killer. I think it's funny because I saw someone on Reddit, they commented, "Oh, look, it's a Starfield killer coming." But no, this is a leak that came out today. You know, I'm giving you time to think. Naughty Dog, new IP. What do you want from their next game that isn't in an established IP?
Well, there are kind of 2 points I want to make, but I think they kind of feed into each other. So, like, the first one, I'll talk about the management first, because I don't remember when it was, but Neil Druckmann, our Lord and Savior,
Dr. Ruckman.
He became the co-president of Naughty Dog. I think that might have been before Last of Us Part 2. No, I think it was after Last of Us Part 2.
Right. It was like 2021.
Yeah.
22.
So obviously he has more power. So, you know, because we've seen this happen, you know, like even in franchises that I like Kingdom Hearts, for example, like Tetsuya Nomura. I love his storytelling and, you know, like his filmmaking sensibilities and stuff in his games. But like a lot of people, I agree that like after Kingdom Hearts, I'd say 2, like things started to get a little out of hand. Like, you know, like certain plot things got more convoluted and the storytelling kind of felt a little, and like it seems like a lot of other Square Enix RPGs kind of like after like the early 2000s kind of, I don't know, kind of lost their way and stuff. So like I'm hoping that, yeah, like Neil Druckmann getting more power at Naughty Dog doesn't result in like everything feeling like
a real possibility,
something that he would make, because I love Last of Us Part 1, really love Part 2. But I don't like, so what I want to see is I want to see that like Naughty Dog can still do things that are different from each other, because, you know, we look at Jak and Daxter, Uncharted.
Just gonna say that, yeah,
they're really different. You know, like visually they're different. They don't play the same. You know, maybe they have some superficial things in common, like exploration and whatnot. But like aside from that, but like, you know, like look at Last of Us. The first Last of Us came out 2013, right?
Yes.
And then Uncharted 4 came out like 2016, something like that.
2015.
Neil Druckmann was the creative director for both. Uncharted 4 feels pretty different from the other games and feels more like Last of Us in a lot of ways. So like that's an example right there. Like even if this project they're working on now isn't like being helmed by him or written by him in any way, there's still a possibility that because he's going to be overseeing things that like he could want something to be in it or whatever. That's how anyone at a studio is. The higher ups, they don't give the devs as much freedom as they should have. So
it'll be interesting to see.
I just want to see something like, I want to play this game, on PS5 and be like, wow, this isn't really like The Last of Us or Uncharted at all. Instead of, I mean, I'll still like it if it's like those games, but that would be kind of a letdown to be like, oh, it's like Uncharted and Last of Us in space or in a fantasy world. Like, I mean, that would be cool. Our publisher episode, I talked about wanting a RPG that felt like Last of Us in terms of, like the grittiness and the weight of the combat. But I mean, I don't necessarily want that to be like everything they do, from now on. So
I'm hoping that it is sort of like, okay, hear me out. I'm hoping that it sort of plays like Returnal, where it is faster, it is more fluid, it's more dynamic, you know what I mean? It's not as grounded, but it's still over the shoulder, third person action based, but it's faster. And it looks like it's going to be either fantasy, science fiction. It's going to be something along those lines. Now, what I was going to say actually was Jak and Daxter and Uncharted. It changes, but it's still like that foresty, that real look to it, that you know what I mean? And then you go into The Last of Us and you still you're in, you see a lot of greens and browns and it's very grounded and realistic. So I'm hoping their next game takes a step away from that. I still hope it's very cinematic. I hope it's action and narrative based. I'm gonna try to look up, see what my comments were on it earlier. Where'd I have it? Yeah, so I hope it's still in that vein because they do that very well. The high quality, looks like a movie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's not as grounded like you're saying. I think it'd be fun to have way, more in-depth combat, even if there's no RPG mechanics.
We've already had a sci-fi game recently that had action combat that felt like Last of Us. It was called Callisto Protocol, and not the most fun thing to play because it has that Last of Us problem where like your character fights at the speed of a freaking drunk sloth, but you're fighting mobs of enemies who are just like the freaking Flash, and you get overwhelmed easily. So it should just, if it's going to be like that, either have faster fluid movement or just make it strictly a shooter like the Dead Space games or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of actually sci-fi stuff come out of PlayStation, which I love. I'm a huge sci-fi fan. I think in terms of like genres like that or tropes, whatever, I think sci-fi is my favorite. I just saw The Creator and man, I just love sci-fi. Sci-fi is so good. I'm a huge Star Trek fan, Star Wars, love it.
Yeah, it's my favorite genre in turn because it's all about like, like speculating about like, the future of technology, the future of humanity, the future of anthropology, if that even makes sense, and all that stuff.
No, it is. That's
stuff that
George Lucas
stay
had to
awake
really
thinking about
study
at night.
Anthropology for Star Wars. Exactly.
Yeah, like
super
I have
important.
Existential crises about a lot of stuff they talk about in sci-fi. So like it's
don't watch The Creator then, bro.
I want to watch that movie. Looks insane. But yeah,
you're not gonna be able to leave the theater. You're gonna be in your seat like.
Those are my favorite kind of stories. Like, as much as they wreck me in the moment, those are, the kind of things that I remember. So
I'm going to expose my friend. I'm not going to say his name, but he was with us at the theater, and at the end we looked over at him and he was bawling.
Oh,
wow. I'm talking about not like a tear or tears. I'm talking about his whole face was just. It's a crazy movie.
I've only like fried heavily like once. It was for Avengers Endgame when spoilers if for some reason you haven't seen it, Iron Man dies and the funeral.
Yeah,
Like I felt like
that was sad.
my like bottom lip was like shaking and stuff, and I was like, I'm so glad the lights are off right now.
It's like finally they ended that trash character. No, I'm joking.
No,
So
his story just
yeah, it's
resonates with me
awesome.
so much.
It's awesome. So that's Naughty Dog's new IP. We don't know literally anything else about it. Eyes of Polaris, which I'm hoping is a cool sci-fi game. One other thing I want to talk about, because I think this has a lot of potential and I want to speculate on it here. And you know what's funny? This is reminiscent of our first ever episode together. You remember we talked about
Yeah.
Star Wars Eclipse and speculated, and Jedi Survivor and speculated. So we're going to speculate a little bit more.
Will that game ever come out? I don't know.
Who knows? Actually, yeah, who knows after everything going on lately.
I mean, I hope it's not being directed by my boy David Cage, because listen, I loved Detroit Become Human. Indigo Prophecy gets really dumb halfway through, but I had a great time. Beyond Two Souls is beyond fun because it's so boring. I didn't beat Heavy Rain. I keep him away from Star Wars, please. Keep that crazy French man away from Star Wars. I love the guy, but no, that's not what you should be doing, buddy.
Well, we are going to talk about something that is far, far away from that IP Star Wars, and it is an IP called FarCry. Hear me out.
Oh, yeah, that thing.
There have been leaks for Far Cry 7. They seem very plausible. However, I believe they have been debunked. But of course, they're going to be debunked by Ubisoft. I mean, they're not going to want their information going out. But I want to tell you a little bit about this because I don't know how familiar you are with Far Cry.
I've seen gameplay footage from a few of the games. I think it was like 5. 3, I think, apparently has like really bad AI, like the enemy AI and stuff like that is like just, I don't know, janky. It seems fun. Like I like the idea like you're stuck on an island or something, and you're just like you have to, I don't know, like I think in one you have to like rescue your girlfriend or something. Like there's a crazy cult leader. It seems fun. I don't know.
So Far Cry, interesting premise. You're describing it pretty good. I mean, the premise is like, you're a rebel or you're in some kind of rebellion or you're fighting back against some kind of regime or government or, group or something. You're the underdog and you're fighting for the people or your people or whatever the case may be. People know Far Cry from Far Cry 3, the island, whatever. Far Cry 4 gets away from that. You go to, I believe, Nepal, and it's like a religious cult, and then, or it's a pagan cult, which I guess is religious, I guess, maybe. But you actually go against the religious cult in Far Cry 5 in the United States, and it's pretty interesting. Far Cry 6, though, is my favorite because it goes back to that Far Cry 3 formula of being on an island, and it's basically like Cuba. My boy Giancarlo is the villain. You're in a fictional Yara. It's beautiful. It's, you're fighting back against this tyrannical government. Great, great premise. Fun combat. A little janky, but it's fun. So let's get into Far Cry 7 leaks because this sounds awesome. You ready?
Yeah.
Far Cry 7 will take place on a fictitious tropical island called Kimsan, which can be found in the Yellow Sea next to Korea. Insider Gaming I'm reading this off Reddit, so Insider Gaming was told by its sources that this leak is entirely inaccurate, so we won't be diving into more pieces of information from this rumor. But speaking with sources, it's understood that the next entry to the series will be a non-linear story, which they aren't really linear. They are non-linear. You kind of get a map. You obviously have to take down the tyrant or the leader or whatever, the government, and you can kind of tackle the story in whatever order you want. So this isn't really like a change in that. But that being said, the story is being centered around rescuing the player's kidnapped family. And it's said that the game's plot revolves around a wealthy family that has been kidnapped by a conspiracy group called the Sons of Truth. While exact, finite details are subject to change due to the game's stage of development, it's rumored to be out next fall. It was said that the premise of the campaign is for the player to rescue their entire family within a specific time frame. Currently, the current in-game timer stands at 72 hours, or 24 hours in real time, but the timer can be paused when the player enters one of their safe houses. Doesn't that sound cool?
I mean, yeah, I like that the villains are like crazy right-wingers, because those are, not to get too political, but those are some of my least favorite people on planet Earth. I think it'd be interesting if like the timer just went straight, like there was no way to pause it, and it was a matter of like,
When
like
you start, you just
it was
to,
like under pressure, like you could tackle stuff in any ways that you want to, but like you're always, that could be a good stressor.
Let me keep going. Because I'm gonna address some of that. Far Cry 7's non-linear story means that the family members do not need to be rescued in order, and some family members can be killed, which has an impact on the story. Super interesting. While details are still a little murky, it's understood that the goal is to take down the Sons of Truth, and in order to complete the game 100%, you'll need to rescue all your family members safely. To find your family members, it was said that Far Cry 7 introduces a new interrogation mechanic to the game, which doesn't necessarily mean you'll get the information you need from the enemy. Sometimes the enemy will give up the information, sometimes they'll lie, sometimes they'll stay quiet, and even sometimes escape. And that's pretty much it. And that's a big change to the formula. Even though it's still set on an island, you're still, the underdog, you're still, fighting for the people. But it is a drastic change in kind of the mechanics of it, I should say. It sounds interesting. I like you said, it's kind of like you're going up against this, it says conspiracy group, which would be in our society in like an alt-right group.
Yeah.
However, this is like off the coast of Korea. So I'm wondering if it's going to be some kind of like if your character is American and the people that kidnap your family are Koreans. You know what I mean? Something like that, because that's kind of how it is in the other Far Cry games. When you're visiting or whatever, you're from the island, but wherever you're at, it is very like ethnic. It's not like it's only Americans in these games. The only game that had Americans in it was Far Cry 5. So like 6, they were basically like Cuban. They were Yaren, but that's essentially what they were, and whatever. But I think that'd be interesting if they had like a Korean type of society. You know what I mean? And that too. I think that'd be interesting. But yeah, give me your thoughts on that.
I hope that with like, I mean, I don't know, is the franchise like in any way politically correct? You know what I mean?
They know, they don't try to be. They make up their own politics. So like Far Cry 6, for example, when you're in it, you don't like the main character is the villain. Like you're playing as your character and you have an objective, but like it really focuses in on the story of the bad guys and like what they try to push their own politics and what they say is right, and then you can be like not politically correct on purpose because you're fighting against that. It's not like trying to be politically correct or not usually. I mean, Far Cry 5 was a little bit like, okay, maybe, but why are you asking?
Well, no, because like with like that kind of premise, like my concern would just be because you know, like certain things like that are hot button topics to like, I guess mainly like people on the left or whatever. Like I wasn't sure, like, because I think like, you know, there is merit to like doing like some kind of like a social commentary,
They do that with all their
regardless of
games.
like,
They do, yeah.
yeah, like regardless, like, you know, because if like the villains are going to be Korean, you know, there's a lot of commentary you could make about them that, you know, like criticizing, you know, their leadership in some way and certain things. But I just wonder like if they would be chained in any way, because it's like, oh well, we don't want to, you know, like cause a international incident
So
or
you're right.
offend
They
people
will
too
do
much.
that
You know what I mean?
because they did that. They did that with Far Cry 6 on purpose because they didn't want to, you know, make those political commentaries to get them into trouble like that. So they changed they made up their own nationality. You know what I mean? But you can still draw, you know, similarities
I
between
mean,
the
I
two,
kind of, yeah, like I kind of feel like
which I think is interesting. Yeah.
I kind of feel like that's either like, it sucks that, you know, like certain, you know, like certain artists have to be afraid of like saying certain things because they don't want a mob, you know, trying to attack, you know, try and hunt them down or whatever, which, you know, sucks in some ways. But like, I feel like if they've like made up their own nationalities and stuff to do that, then I think that's a pretty good way to do it. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
I'm not really talking about, you know, this group, wink, wink. So, I mean, yeah, it's a franchise that I might check out at some point because, you know, like I don't like open world stuff too much, but like if it's like, I wouldn't mind it so much if it's like one area, like an island, instead of like a whole continent or something. So, I mean, yeah, it seems cool. I hope that, you know, how do I say it? Like, I hope that, you know, the storytelling lives up to the potential.
So that's what's fun about it. It's a very interesting game. It's fun. It's a popular franchise, so I want to talk about it because it is relevant. I personally like Far Cry because it's a fun open world. It is a checkbox game, but it is the checkbox game. If you know what I mean.
Oh yeah.
Like nobody does checkboxes better than Far Cry. And it's funny thinking about it that way, but it's true. Like if you play it, you're like, man, I'm just checking boxes, but it makes you love checking those boxes. So it's fun. And these leaks sound amazing. I hope it's true. So that's really it for gaming news because we talked a little bit about Starfield, about Naughty Dog, some of these rumors and leaks. I don't really want to get into the Xbox leaks because, you know, it came out that Xbox, you know, Phil Spencer was like, oh, let's buy Nintendo again, but they're going to get shot down like they did last time. So, yeah, dumb. Jim Ryan's retiring, crying Jim Ryan. So, you know, RIP to Jim, but that's, you know, whatever. We're not gonna talk about that. So anything, can you think of anything else before I throw it to you for the main topic, because I want you to lead the main topic. But in terms of games, anything you want to say before we move on?
Yeah, it's wait, I gotta look at.
I'm gonna let you. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let you lead the next topic. You know what it is.
I gotta look. Yeah, I gotta look at this. Okay, so I just found out that on October 19th, this game called Inescapable No Rules, No Rescue is coming out for all platforms. It's like Danganronpa meets Zero Escape, you know, group of people trapped. Oh, here's a synopsis. Is a social thriller set in a tropical island resort. So kind of like Far Cry.
Sounds cool.
You've been kidnapped and forced to participate in a twisted reality TV show with 10 strangers. At the end of your stay, you'll receive $500,000.
Squid Games?
There's just one catch. On the island, there are no rules and no hope of rescue. So, I mean, I just finished the Danganronpa series. Good God. And I just beat the first Zero Escape game today. Good God. So I can't wait for this game. And if any of you are, jonesing for more stuff in that pocket, Kazutaka Kodaka said he's open to making another Danganronpa. Uchikoshi, I think the Zero Escape series is over, but I know some fans want another one. So, if you're feeling that void, check out this game because it could be pretty sweet.
Awesome. Great recommendation. Those Danganronpa, play those games. I wish I had the time. I'm going to get into it one day, but we don't have time for that. We do have time for is the main topic we're going to of our episode today.